always got to shake it up a little bit, but due to extenuating circumstances, I'm not in my usual place. I'm usually at a library when I record, but bear with me. Welcome back to Wide Awake. I'm Blue Jaden Robinson. Today's episode is called The Psychology of Gender Divide. Today, I'm going to talk about something that's emotionally charged, and it could be considered a cultural war, a social divide, or a debate about identity. But let's get into it. When you open TikTok, you're scrolling, you might see a transgender person that's talking about cisgender people. You might see a cisgender person talking about transgender people. And then the reactions and the interviews and the podcasts. And some people walk away feeling heard, other people walk away feeling attacked. I often ask myself, why is that the case? I want us to understand why we think the way we do. And so, psychology, it begins with one question. Who am I? And it doesn't start with just your name. It starts with, your beliefs, your memories, your values, your community. Who am I is the story that you tell yourself about yourself, or your family, or your country. And so I want to get into why our culture is different from other cultures, why culture shapes our beliefs. And so, believe it or not, it's no longer the transgender cisgender war in other cultures. In many indigenous nations across North America, such as the Hydra community or in Samoa, we refer to people that express gender differently as two-spirited individuals. And so psychologists refer to this as socialization, because from childhood, our culture teaches us what is normal. And I often ask, what is abnormal these days? So if you throw in social media, I want to ask, why does the internet feel like a battlefield these days? Because it's no longer asking what helps us understand one another. It's asking what is going to keep these people watching. What is going to keep these people's attention throughout the duration of the video. Now, I want you to imagine two different videos. One video is a respectful, calm conversation that's informing people about awareness and what's going on in society that might help you navigate society. And the other video is people yelling at each other about who's right, who's wrong, who wears what, whose boyfriend slept with what, whose girlfriend slept with what, and what we calling people that don't identify as what, right? And so what attracts more attention? Often the negative one where people are in conflict versus the one where people are calm. And psychologists refer to that as negativity bias. And so you're seeing not what's helping you understand, you're seeing what's attracting attention. So I want to bring up another term that psychologists refer to as a social identity theory, where human beings create groups in their minds. This one that is pertaining to this video would be appropriate to refer to that as us versus them. Whichever group you identify as is your business. And so that instinct helped our ancestors survive. When they were hunters and gatherers and needed to belong to a certain group, you needed to be able to identify what deferred you from the other group. And so in this video, we're going to stick to what I've been talking about, the transgender versus the cisgender community. Neither group has one voice. And every community has disagreement, diversity, and individuality. But when we forget that, the conversations become harder. And so another term that psychologists refer to as confirmation bias. It will help us understand why this is happening. I want you to think that somebody says something like, all teenagers are irresponsible. So every time they come into contact with a story that backs up that evidence that, let's say, a teenager lost their phone, they're going to agree with the fact that that statement of all teenagers are irresponsible, even if they know 10 other teenagers that were responsible, they fade into the background, right? And so the same thing happens in these debates about gender. If we believe that one side is unreasonable, we tend to notice other examples that reinforce those beliefs. It doesn't mean that somebody is lying, but if you add cognitive dissonance into that, cognitive dissonance is the discomfort that we feel when we come into contact with new information that challenges our long held existing beliefs. Conflicts and the conversation becomes more emotionally charged than when it was when you didn't have that information. And so the human cost of that is when people of one group or another experience minority stress. And often it's the transgender people, white, right, in America. Not to get political, but those people can experience stigma, discrimination, and fear of rejection constantly and make you defensive. And then cisgender people are scared to ask certain questions because then they could be perceived as hateful, right? So both can make having an honest conversation harder. And so it's a human response, though. It's a human response. But I want to remind you that being different isn't what's dangerous. It's the dehumanization of people who are different that is dangerous. It's the hatred that is caused by the dehumanization of different people that is dangerous. And so that's a psychological danger, because we stop seeing people as individuals and we start seeing them as somebody that's symbolic of a larger issue. And so we're no longer talking to Blue, right? We're talking to Blue, the transgender person, right? And that could become a problem because labels is replacing the genuine curiosity about the individual, right? And so I wanna ask, where are we going from here? Because psychology doesn't ask us to abandon our values. It's asking us to understand the forces that shape our thinking, right? And so I want you to ask yourself, what experiences shape my beliefs? What experiences does somebody else go through that shape theirs? And could you only be seeing your part of that picture? Because the goal isn't to eliminate disagreement. The goal is to make sure that disagreement doesn't cause us to forget each other's humanity, right? And so if we chose curiosity, we make room for learning. If we chose empathy, we make room for understanding. So one more thing that bothered me, I've seen this video that had a billboard in some state, I don't know where, but it was attacking the LGBTQ community because it said no child has two moms and no child has two dads. And so we have LGBTQ families all across America with children who are driving past that billboard, and it's causing emotional turmoil within those households. It's causing distress within those families and inside those children who have to question, do my parents love me because they are identified differently from what America seems to be at war with right now? Just America's culture. And so I want to remind us that you're watching Blue. This is Wide Awake, exploring your internal world. And until next time, keep asking questions, keep examining your own mind, keep examining other people's mind, and never stop exploring your internal world. God bless you.